But tonight we have a guest here who has served this community and much of the Southern Metro in our U.S. Congress. He's been there for 8 years, our Congressman John Kline. He's known as one of the foremost experts in defense and veterans issues. In fact, he is a ranking minority member of the House Education and Labor Committee, as well as the House Armed Services Committee, and he's established his reputation as a defender of veterans. John was very passionate, our Congressman was very passionate about Veterans Affairs, because he knows, as a 25-year veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. He was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He commanded all Marine aviation forces in Operation Restore Hope in Somalia. He worked as the Program Development Officer at the headquarters of the Marine Corps and served as a military aide to both Presidents Carter and Reagan, where his responsibilities included carrying the nuclear football, or the secret codes to launch our nuclear arsenal. John lives in Lakeville with his wife Vicki, who is a former Army nurse, and has children, one of which now flies Black Hawk helicopters for the Army. I hope you all join me tonight in welcoming our Congressman, John Kline.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Sometimes in this business you don't always get applause, so I'm grateful for it when it happens. So thank you again. Thank you for the introduction, Brad. It's a pleasure to be with you in Watertown. Watertown is, on the one hand, sort of on the very edge of my district, and on the other hand, it's at the very heart of it. So it's always a pleasure to be here with you. This is an interesting gathering and an interesting purpose. I see Republicans in the room, some I've known for many years, and some Democrats in the room, and some independents, and some people who are not interested in being affiliated with any party. An understandable position. But you are here presumably because KJ and others decided to bring together people not for a partisan rally, but people who were interested in recapturing America. And I think that's an important way to look at this. Many people, Republicans, Democrats, independents, have been expressing their fears more and more lately that the America that they love is in fact unraveling. It is slipping away from them. And so I understand there's a desire, there's a sense that we need to recapture that. We need to refocus on this document. We need to refocus on the founders of this great nation and the values that they held and that they put into these documents and that form the core of who we have been as a nation. I was still driving here. I understand that you had an opening prayer and some comments about, perhaps from KJ or the pastor, I'm not sure, about the importance of the Judeo-Christian values that are at the core of our great country. And it's important that we remember those, and if they are slipping away, and many people think they are, that we recapture them. And so I think that the title of this rally is entirely appropriate. And I think it's appropriate that it's not a partisan political rally. And maybe I shouldn't walk because the microphone doesn't want to walk with me. I may not be able to stop myself, although I must admit that I'm a politician and I have a microphone, so I hope you're comfortable to be here for a while. It is important that this not be a purely or a partisan rally, but that you're all here with this common purpose of recapturing America. Now, there are partisan differences. There's no question about that. If you're a Republican, as I am, that's who you are, and you have a view. You have a view that says, we don't need any more taxes, particularly when we're in a recession. And when we're keeping unemployment at over 9%, for 16 months we've had unemployment at 9.5% more, and we don't need any more taxes. That's a view that's held by me and many in my party, and not necessarily by those in another party. We have a view in my party that we don't need more government. We don't need bigger government. We don't need to create more government jobs. We don't need to have more debt and deficits and stimulus that fail. We don't need that. That's kind of a partisan view, and I'm not apologizing for that. There are differences. The President of the United States recognizes the economy is in trouble and that we need jobs, and he has a recommended solution. He's offered again this week to add tens of billions, 50 billion, then 180 billion more dollars of spending, government spending. I don't think that's a good idea. We have differences about how we ought to approach this. But there are some things that we can and should be working on together as Republicans and Democrats, and I'll give you an example. I'm standing here on a stage with a document that was found, the start of the document, that was founded on those Judeo-Christian principles. A belief in the Almighty, a belief in an all-powerful God. We opened this rally with prayer to that God. And yet we have people, including many nameless, sometimes faceless bureaucrats, who are literally trying to erase God from the public square, from the nation's capital. I mean, literally taking the letters G-O-D and erasing them so they no longer appear. They did that when they built the new Capitol Visitor Center. They recreated the speaker's desk, chair, in a virtual House of Representatives in the Visitor Center so that the millions of Americans and foreigners, visitors who come to visit our nation's capital could see what the inside of the House of Representatives looks like. Except in the real House, it says above the Speaker's chair, "In God we trust." That, by the way, is our national motto. But in the Visitor Center, they just erased it. They put little stars across there. There is a group, a bipartisan group, chaired by a Republican from Virginia and a Democrat from North Carolina, the Congressional Prayer Caucus, of which I'm a member, who took that on and said, that's unacceptable. You cannot do that. And so in a bipartisan way, we took that battle on, and you'll be pleased to know that we won that battle. And God has found purposes. That was a battle, not the war. The fight goes on. And that's the kind of fight that we can fight in a nonpartisan way. There's another fight that's out there. Our young men and women, our sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, are fighting in uniform. They're fighting still in Iraq, although we've met the troop reduction commitment. There are still American soldiers fighting over there, special operations forces, and they're fighting in Afghanistan. And I speak collectively when I say our sons and daughters, but I speak personally when I say my son, who is on his third combat tour, serving now in Afghanistan. And he, along with his colleagues, his troops, those men and women, our sons and daughters, they're proud to be there. They understand they're fighting for this, they're fighting for us, they're fighting to give a chance to the Afghan people and to the people of Pakistan and the people of the region and the people of the world. They understand there's an enemy out there. It's an enemy of Islamist extremists, jihadists. That threat still exists, and they're happy to fight, but they want to know that we're with them. And I just want you to know that I'm with them, and I believe that you in this room, that you're with them, and you're not going to let them down. And let them fight again. And we can do that in a bipartisan way. Well, I warned you that I had a microphone, and you should get comfortable. But I'm sensing from over here behind the stage that there's this hook that's coming out ever closer to me. So I just wanted to thank you for your participation, for your involvement, ask you to stay in it, to stay tuned, to keep talking to Washington. It is true that often there are deaf ears up there, but they're not all deaf ears. And the louder you shout, and the more consistent that you are, the more it punches through. So thank you all for being here. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.